Tired of long waits and rushed care at the ER and urgent care clinic? Next time, stay home and let Dispatch Health bring the power of the hospital to you.
I call Dispatch Health. A care team of medical professionals actually come to your house.
They're the same caliber of people that you would see if you were at a hospital or an urgent care.
Dispatch Health can treat most non-life-threatening emergencies.
They can do the x-rays, they can do stitches,
urinary tract infections, blood test, urinalysis, ultrasound.
It's almost everything that they can do at the ER.
You never feel rushed. They're there for you and only you.
I felt like their only patient.
And it costs no more than a trip to urgent care because Dispatch Health is covered by most insurance, including Medicare. See if we serve your home at dispatchhealth.com.
Dispatch Health really went above and beyond.
It's wonderful to have care come to your home.
House calls are back, and they're better than ever. Learn more at dispatchhealth.com.
Peloton, let's go!
This holiday, with the right music and the right motivation from world-class instructors,
We're going to pick it up a notch. It's the holiday season.
you might just surprise yourself with what you're capable of. Work out to thousands of live and on-demand classes, from running to cycling to yoga. Try Peloton risk-free with a 30-day home trial. New members only, not available in remote locations. See additional terms at onepeloton.com/home-trial. Peloton, motivation that moves you.
Welcome to the Boneyard with Steve Robertson. As always, I am your good friend and host, Steve Robertson, here on the Maroon Friday edition of the Yard. Hope you're wearing maroon today. Hope it's a payday for you. Wouldn't that be cool? Have a little extra money to get out and go do some things, maybe pay some bills, enjoy a nice meal, make a trip to Stark Vegas. Got a sellout crowd on hand this weekend at Davis Wade Stadium as the Bulldogs take on number 1 Georgia. You know, here's the thing, too, about all this stuff. Many of you are probably like me. Some of you aren't. There's some people that are, they're only happy when they're miserable. But I am the kind of person, but by the time we get to kickoff, I will maybe have convinced myself, man, we got a chance. We got a chance. We got a chance. We got a chance. We're going to give our final thoughts on the Bulldog-Georgia matchup today, later in the show. But you know how it is. When the schedule first comes out, you say, you know what, that's a sure loss. And as we get a little closer, you start thinking, man, I remember back in 1980, nobody gave us a chance, and we beat number 1. I remember back in 1996, Jackie Sherrill was on the ropes. Looked like he was going to be fired at year's end. He found a way to beat Alabama, changed the course of the SEC Western Division race that year. Maybe even cost Alabama a chance at another national championship. So crazier things have happened. They really have. I remember a ball game with State in Florida. There were a lot of people that thought the Fun and Gun was just going to come to Starkville and absolutely destroy us. And we made Shane Matthews look like that he was a junior college quarterback, and that's a guy that went on to play several years in the National Football League. So there's always the chance, right? But come kickoff, I will have convinced myself, you know what, man, we got a shot. My hope is, whether what our belief is, I hope that our Bulldogs believe that. How many times in your life, and maybe your playing career. Most of us didn't play above the high school level. Many people didn't play above the Pee Wee level, Little League level. Didn't even get a chance to play varsity sports in high school. But how many chances do you get in your playing career to do something that changes everything? Really not very often, right? I mean, those opportunities are few and far between. And when those opportunities have presented themselves, a lot of times, people have come up short. But there's always the one time. There's a reason that we still consider November 1st a holiday within the Mississippi State fan base. That was the day we beat the Bear, and I was there. There's like 10 million people that claim they were there. I was there, my first college game, with my dad and my brother. And I've shared with you guys before, my brother flipped to Alabama over the course of the ball game. We had to sit on the Alabama side. But the reality of it is sometimes crazy things happen. Is this one of those times? I'm not ready to convince myself of that today. But you know what? When we played them in 2020, I thought we'd go down there with what I think was 45 players on the travel roster. I think we had 49 initially that passed COVID testing protocols. And then before we got on the plane, we had a few that had to drop. So we had 45 players on the travel roster. That's it. We went down there and should have won the game in Georgia. And you know how it was where Rodgers and those guys came out, went right down the field. They scored. Every time Georgia scored, we answered. They just felt like, you know what, we got a shot here. We didn't. But it said a lot about our team. And, Mike Leach said after Alabama game that he thought that we were scared of Alabama. Perhaps maybe we're not scared of Georgia. Maybe we should be. But I think, like they say, scared money doesn't make money. And you look at the teams that have had some success in recent years against the likes of Alabama and Georgia and teams like that. They're teams that have been fearless. We have nothing to lose by going out there and just playing reckless and, let's just go try to win the ball game. Georgia's a lot better team than us. Let's frame it up like that. They are a better team than us. There's no disputing that. But crazy things happen in college football. They do. And come kickoff, I will have tried to convince myself that, you know what, maybe tonight's a night, something special is going to happen. Let's thank our friends at Bulldog Burger Company. I love Bulldog Burger Company. I do. And I loved them long before they were a sponsor of this show. I don't partner with people that I don't believe in. Right? I turn down ads all the time. I get ad submissions every week, from the service that I'm on. But Bulldog Burger Company, I'm very proud to partner with them. Not just because they're great people, and they are. John Bean, the whole crew, the fans, everybody involved, just great people. Committed to our community, no doubt about it. They've done a great job feeding the Bulldog family for years here in the Golden Triangle. Bulldog Burger Company, now kind of the new kid on the block in many respects when it comes to the Eat With Us group. But when people hit me up, like other members of the media, they say, hey, where should we eat? We're in town. Well, you know what? I'm picking one of those restaurants. I just am. Because I don't want to give somebody a bad rec. And Bulldog Burger Company is one that I mention regularly. 3 great locations to serve you. University Drive here in Star Vegas with that fabulous new patio area. It's getting cool. You can sit out there by the chimenea. It's going to be cold this weekend, too. Maybe bring an extra jacket. Lake Harbor Drive there in the Ridge and Flowwood area, and then Gloucester Street there in Tupelo. I love going in there because, number one, I know what I'm going to get before I even get there. Sometimes you're like, oh, we got to go eat. Where do you want to go? I don't know what I want. I know when I go to Bulldog Burger Company before I even pull into the parking lot exactly what I want. And I always get those spring rolls as my appetizer. No matter what else I'm doing that day, I'm getting the spring rolls. And you should too. They'll make you and everybody around you better looking. And again, I'm a big proponent of the restaurant quality hamburger. It's one of the fine delicacies we afford ourselves in life. Go get the Bulldog, get the Mission. I get the Pico de Gallo on the side when I get the Mission, but I love it. The Pimentology, add bacon. That'll put some hair on your chest. Yeah. And get that chocolate shake to go. Again, we need to start a movement with that. Desserts to go, yeah, that's part of the new dining experience. And you can get that at Bulldog Burger Company, the place where people go to meet, M-E-A-T. All right, let's take a look around the Southeastern Conference. I am happy. I am beyond happy with this slate of games that we have. And I tell you, there's some big numbers with the lines this week. It's tough picking games. At genespage.com, we this year we decided to pick with the spread, which has kind of changed the dynamic. I'm happy to say I'm tied with Mike Neiman for first place. But it's been a weird year, and it always is. There's never a year where everything goes to script. The teams that are favored to win the SEC East and West usually do. But what's behind them? Everybody jockeying for position, trying to get to a New Year's Six, or where they stand in the Pool Six. Weird things happen. They do. That's the thing we love about it, right? How many people, think about it, how many people had South Carolina going to Kentucky and winning that game? Not many people. Especially when you consider, there were some that were suggesting, Kentucky was going to be, win the SEC East and potentially win the Southeastern Conference and get in the playoff. It was just, I wish more people felt that way about Mississippi State. Honestly. And Kentucky's right there with it. We're essentially the same program, just in different divisions. But you hear everybody talking, Kentucky's this, Kentucky's that. Oh, my gosh. It's ridiculous. Probably going to be an 8-4 team, and hopefully we will be too in the regular season. But Kentucky loses that game in South Carolina, and I think kind of got exposed to be a kind of an above-average team when many people forecasted greatness. It's why we play the games. How many of y'all had LSU beating Alabama last week? It's tough to go win in Tiger Stadium even for Alabama. We talked about that a couple weeks ago on the show here. Alabama had to go to Baton Rouge. I mean, the road to Atlanta for Alabama went through Baton Rouge, and then they, had a bit of an incident, shall we say. Now Alabama, of course, got to win out and get some help along the way. It's the reason we play the games. And we touched on this on the last show, too. It's kind of rarefied air for us to beat Arkansas, Auburn, and A&M in the same year. It's happened 3 times in our history. And again, we're going back to expansion, back to 2012. So we're only talking 10 years. But when we can do that, when we can win those 3 games, it's a good year. May not be a great year, but it's a good year. Because those are our contemporaries. Them, Ole Miss, Kentucky, those are the teams, in some respects that we're kind of similar to when it comes to tradition, especially in recent years in a more modern era of football. We're going to talk about some Bulldog history in the final segment of the show, athletically. But, and here's the thing, too. I wrote a couple books, maybe you've heard, written 5 books total, 4 sports books, a book of poetry. And I appreciate everybody that's bought a book of mine, whether it be for yourself or somebody else. Thank you very much. If you've never heard me say it, thank you. Because I spent a lot of time and effort sitting up here kind of agonizing over details and looking up historical facts and a lot of time reading old newspaper articles and the media guides and things like that. And you spend months and months and months working on this, and then people read the book in a weekend. But my hope is that the knowledge as imparted to you becomes invaluable to you. But one of the probably the most undeniable truth when it comes to Mississippi State athletics prior to the modern era, and I guess in some respects we could say maybe the modern era for us began in the 90s when the SEC expanded in 92. So let's just kind of talk about that. Now, this may hurt some feelings, but I'm going to call it like it is. Mississippi State, by and large, was not committed to athletics. We were great at baseball, and some of that's just because of the fact that we had a great recruiting base because so many young men in this neck of the woods played baseball essentially year-round. They were good at it, so we kind of benefited geography-wise because we're in the South and it's the summer months, basically 3/4 of the year. So we played baseball a lot more. We didn't play hockey. We played baseball. But we weren't committed to athletics. We didn't put financial support behind athletics. You talk about the whole poor old state thing. That happens a lot. The reality of it is at times we were a poor old state. We're not anymore. This isn't your dad or your granddad's Mississippi State. Things have changed. Are we on par with the elite schools in this league? We're not. But we're a lot better off than we used to be. You go back and look, and we discuss some of these series. We preview on Wednesday the series coming up. I talk about the history. How many times did we sell a home game? I mean, think about that nowadays. And I don't know if home field advantage was as big a deal back then as it is today. The crowds weren't as big. Of course, you had to travel. There's always inconvenience with traveling and playing in unfamiliar surroundings. You don't have as many of your fans around you, and that does matter. It does. There's a reason for that. You get passionate fans. But we sold a lot of home games for money. So we gave up the home field advantage, for a payday. And I'm not going to be critical of the officials that made those decisions, because I'm sure it's what they felt they needed to do, what they felt was better for the health of the athletic department. It's like, hey, we could play this game in Starkville and maybe make a couple grand, or we can sell the game and make more money. Then we don't have to worry about staffing the concession stands and paying for all this stuff. We didn't have a lot of money. And part of that problem is because Mississippi State and Ole Miss were not treated equally by the IHL board, nor was Southern Miss. Ole Miss was always given favor when it came to budgetary issues. Things are a little different now. They weren't always like that. And so it's a difficult decision these gentlemen were in. Duty Noble was probably in the middle of all that for the most part. But we sold a bunch of home games. I mean, we played in Baton Rouge over and over and over again. We'd play at Auburn and then go play them in Birmingham. Things like that. But we weren't committed Maybe we wanted to be. Maybe we just didn't have the resources. But we weren't committed to athletics. Nowadays we are. And so what happened is so many other programs that maybe were committed to athletics got so far ahead of us, we're still trying to catch up. I would love, when we all get to heaven, I would love to be able to know about some of those decisions. I mean, the people that made them are dead and gone, but I would love to know. Was it worth, and maybe I'm being a little bit heavy-handed here, was it worth putting our team at a competitive disadvantage to make a few more bucks? We have the gift of hindsight now, and we begin to look at, well, what did that mean for our tradition? What did that mean for our fan base? What did that do for recruiting? Well, we've got to be able to pay the janitor. So we're going to sell this game, and we're going to go play Florida and, Pensacola or something like that. We're going to do that. We're not going to play the game here. We're going to go do that because, we were suckers for the quick reward. And again, maybe that's what we feel like we had to do. But our football program especially paid the price for that. Baseball, we could compete with anytime, anywhere, right? Football's different. And I go back to, we talk about the difference in the series between State and Ole Miss. One of the biggest differences between State and Ole Miss, Alan McKean, as great as he was, an absolute legend, National College Football Hall of Famer. Did you know that? Yeah. We ended up firing him. Again, Bob Sanders was probably kind of the forerunner of some of these malcontents on social media. Thought that he knew better than Duty Noble. Launched a coup to get Alan McKean fired. Ultimately succeeded. At the end of the day, Alan McKean did not have a leg to stand on. He didn't have the support of the donors, didn't have support of the administration, didn't have the support of the students. Matter of fact, the students put together a petition saying they would boycott games if Alan McKean was brought back. That's how bad it was. But Alan McKean was reluctant to sign veterans. Ole Miss was taking them left and right. I mean, you get these grown men that are hardened by World War II. You put them on a college football field, they feel like they've died and gone to heaven. Johnny Vaught pursued those guys. We had a few. We did. Harper Davis being one of them. I shared with you guys in Alpha Dogs that Harper Davis was working in Corpus Christi, Texas when the war ended, and Johnny Vaught was actually his football coach. How about that? Pretty crazy to think about, isn't it? That was before he became the offensive line coach at Ole Miss and ultimately the head coach. Johnny Vaught's a great coach, no matter how you look at it. Got big numbers. But Harper Davis comes to Mississippi State, studies the playbook on the car ride back from Corpus Christi. We go over and play Auburn. He gets on the bus, having had very little practice, and scores 2 touchdowns, and we win the game. But Ole Miss, to their credit, said, hey, look, we can go get these grown men that are playing against guys, right out of the cornfield and put together a good program. And they did. And so, again, there's just been so many decisions over the years, some things that we have done to the detriment of Mississippi State and Mississippi State football. We have. We just have to own that. And we can't fix it. We can't dwell on it. Like the old saying is, we can't change the past. We can change what it means. We got to get caught up. And a big part of that is Bulldog Initiative, as you guys know. But the reality of it is that we can't sit here and just belabor the point and go over, well, we didn't do this, we didn't do that. It's about where we are now. What can we do? Now that it's our generation, now that it's our lifetime, what kind of footprint are we going to leave when it comes to Mississippi State athletics? It's a big part of things. I begin to wonder sometimes, too, like if when we do all get to heaven, those of us make it, I'd love to sit down with Bob Sanders in that group that ran Alan McKean out and said, hey, knowing what you know now, would you have made that decision? I'd ask Duty Noble, hey, you remember all those games you sold, for a few bucks? Knowing what you know now, would you have made that decision? And again, I'm not being critical of those people. We have the gift of hindsight. But we made a lot of decisions that were not in the best interest of Mississippi State's ability to compete. It's important to understand. All right, let's look at this week's SEC football schedule. I like the schedule. Again, it's so crazy how life works sometimes. Eli Drinkwitz extension, $6 million a year. $6 million a year. He hadn't done much. They're not even bowl eligible this year. And maybe Eli will get them there. You know, my conspiracy theory, I think they will get there. And we'll see what happens. We never know what shape Missouri and Arkansas teams are going to be in when they get together. But it's interesting. You know, Missouri hits the league wide open. They go to the SEC championship game, and everybody's thinking, man, look at this. They've done nothing since then. They get a chance to see Tennessee up close and personal in Neyland Stadium this weekend. And teams like Missouri and Kentucky, and in some respects South Carolina, have kind of benefited from the fact, you know, for much of the last decade, Florida hadn't really been Florida, and Tennessee hadn't really been Tennessee. So if you're Kentucky now, when you get to schedule 7 wins each year, right, you get your non-conference, you should be able to win 3 or 4 of those every single year. And then you get to play South Carolina and Vanderbilt and Missouri every year. You got 7 wins before you even look at the rest of the schedule. You're bowl eligible. And Mark Stoops is a good coach, but I think sometimes people undervalue that, right? You look at Missouri, and Missouri is going to go face Tennessee this weekend, and now Tennessee is back. Now, how long Heupel can keep them back remains to be seen. But Tennessee is a destination quality job. Good facilities, a lot of money, big fan base, national attention. And so you look at teams like Missouri and Kentucky and South Carolina and begin to realize, well, hey, it's not going to be just a one-pony show anymore with Georgia. Now Tennessee's getting better, and I do think Florida had some good years under Dan Mullen, despite the fact that last year fell apart on him. Dan had some good years. So now all of a sudden you begin to think it's going to be Tennessee, Florida, and Georgia again. So maybe we'll begin to get some balance within the league just in time for them to change the rotation of the schedule, right? But I think this is a story of 2 programs here. I think Missouri's going one direction and Tennessee going another. And again, I think most of us felt like Tennessee was going to be improved this year. Did you think that here we'd be here in the middle of November talking about Tennessee having a chance to make the playoff? Be one of the 4 best teams in the country? I don't think we did. And they're currently number 5. And there are a couple teams ahead of them they're going to play head-to-head. It's pretty crazy to think about. So it's been a fascinating story to watch. I think the only big exception to what my expectation was them beating Alabama. I thought they would lose to Alabama and lose to Georgia. That might be it. Expected a big year. But that big win over Alabama kind of gets that Crimson Monkey off their back. It's for years and years and years. The third Saturday in October has meant nothing. And then Tennessee wins. Pretty crazy. And again, they could have folded in that game too. When Hooker had the fumble at the mesh point there and Alabama scoops it up and goes in for a touchdown. I'm thinking, here we go. It's over. But Tennessee said no. I like Tennessee in this game big. I don't think Missouri can score with them. Missouri defensively is playing better. But Tennessee is so explosive from the passing standpoint. And I tell you, the analytics on this Tennessee offense are ridiculous. Jalen Hyatt's done a great job for the Volunteers. And so I like Tennessee to win and win fairly convincingly. Missouri defensively has been better this year, especially as of late. I mean, you go back and look at some of the games that they played, even against some teams where the talent differential favored the opponent. Mizzou was right there. You go back, Auburn. Auburn's got dudes. They don't have coaching, but they got dudes. They held them to 17 points. And Auburn hadn't been a great offensive team, but Missouri had to go to the Plains, and then they should have won the game. And then the very next week, instead of pouting and crying and acting like a victim because they fumbled the go-ahead touchdown into the end zone at Auburn, they nearly upset the number 1 team in the country. They lose by 4 to Georgia. And then instead of thinking, well, this is a self-fulfilling prophecy, we're just not very good this year, we're never going to win these close games, the next week they go to Florida They go to the Swamp and should have won the game and lose by 7. It's pretty remarkable. It really is. And last week, of course, they lose to Kentucky 21-17. But you look at this Missouri team, and you could see why perhaps that you would want to extend Drinkwitz. But, man, $6 million. And I guess maybe if you got to write a deal, you got to write a deal. I just don't know why you do it in the middle of the year. I mean, who's going to be coming for Eli Drinkwitz, right? I mean, honestly, seriously, who is going to be coming for him that necessitates an in-season extension? But they do it. But, yeah, they've got some young offensive talent, and defensively they're playing much, much better. I mean, really the only game you really point to and say, you know what, these guys just weren't in the game was when Kansas State absolutely smashed them up there in Little Apple. There's progress. There is. There's progress. And again, I won't be the least bit surprised if they end the year 6-6. I wouldn't have said that 3 weeks ago, but I'm saying it today. But again, this week, Tennessee gets them big. LSU is at Arkansas. Arkansas is in a bit of a crisis. And now a couple weeks ago, I was telling you guys Arkansas had a chance to go on a 5-game winning streak and end the year and be in great position to potentially play in a big-time bowl game. And now you begin to look at it and begin to wonder, are they going to make a bowl game? It's pretty crazy. And I think one of the things, too, that I'll say, time is one of the most important commodities we have in the world. That's not breaking news. But time is also gives us the chance for things to play out. And things are still playing out. But there were so many people that kind of whipped Mississippi State and whipped our fans. But, look at Sam Pittman. Look at Sam Pittman. Look at Sam Pittman. Okay, let's look at Sam Pittman. He's now 17-15. A lot of people were like, hey, Arkansas is so much farther ahead than Mississippi State and Mike Leach. And I'll be honest with you, when Arkansas hired Sam Pittman, I wasn't a fan. I like Sam Pittman, though. I do. And I think he'll find a way to get these guys bowl eligible. But, you're 5-4 with 3 games against the SEC to go. They don't get the benefit of that, FCS opponent or non-conference opponent next weekend. They got to play Ole Miss next weekend. The good thing for Arkansas is 2 of the next 3 are at home. And you'd like to think that you can pick off one of those 2. If I have to call it today, they're going to lose to LSU and then beat Ole Miss. And, of course, the reverse could happen. And then it would make for an awfully interesting finish, shall we say. But LSU a chance to wrap up the SEC Western Division this weekend. I suspect they get it done. I do think Arkansas will come out and ready to play. When you go back and look at last year's game, that was the thing. Arkansas had no business winning that game last year. Do you remember watching that game? I do. And LSU couldn't get out of their own way. LSU had more talent and just couldn't get it done. That's the thing that I think about is, with these, we talk about the analytics and recruiting rankings and things of that nature. And LSU was, a 4-5 team last year when this game was played? They were trying to get it done. But it's one of those crazy things, you look back in hindsight, I don't quite understand how Arkansas was really kind of able to get that thing done the way they did. And it's really a tip of the cap to them. They were 6-3 going to that ball game. But LSU has a 10-3 lead in Tiger Stadium at the break. Then they give up 10 points there in the third quarter. And, again, that's credit to Sam Pittman and his staff. And then LSU has to kick a late field goal to tie it, and they force overtime. And then Arkansas wins it 16-13 in overtime. It's insanity. But, you go back and look at these numbers, and you look at it and you begin to ask yourself, why didn't LSU win the game? Defensively, I thought that Arkansas did some good things in this ball game, but the magic of Tiger Stadium didn't work out well, and ultimately you lose a close ball game to a good team. Don't get me wrong. No way am I suggesting Arkansas was bums last year. They weren't, but they kind of lived a charmed life. They shouldn't have beat us, and I don't think they should have beat LSU. And maybe they should have beat Ole Miss. Things always kind of have a way of evening out. But I like LSU in this one. I think LSU will take care of business on the plains. On the plains in the natural state, and that puts Arkansas in a really dangerous predicament. To be 5-5 with 2 to play, you got to get 1 somewhere. And again, there were a lot of people that thought Arkansas might have a chance to contend for the West this year, and here they are kind of scratching and clawing and try to get bowl eligible, and the schedule's not really favorable. You got the number 7 team in the country coming in this week and number 11 coming in next week. And then you got to go on the road to play this improving Missouri team we just talked about. So I don't expect Arkansas to lose out, but it's not going to be easy. And nor should it be, right?
Tired of long waits and rushed care at the ER and urgent care clinic? Next time, stay home and let Dispatch Health bring the power of the hospital to you.
I call Dispatch Health. A care team of medical professionals actually come to your house.
They're the same caliber of people that you would see if you were at a hospital or an urgent care.
Dispatch Health can treat most non-life-threatening emergencies.
They can do the x-rays, they can do stitches.
Urinary tract infections, blood test, urinalysis, ultrasound.
It's almost everything that they can do at the ER.
You never feel rushed. They're there for you and only you.
I felt like their only patient.
And it costs no more than a trip to urgent care because Dispatch Health is covered by most insurance, including Medicare. See if we serve your home at dispatchhealth.com.
Dispatch Health really went above and beyond.
It's wonderful to have care come to your home.
House calls are back, and they're better than ever. Learn more at dispatchhealth.com.
Peloton, let's go.
This holiday, with the right music and the right motivation from world-class instructors,
We're going to pick it up a notch. It's the holiday season.
you might just surprise yourself with what you're capable of. Work out to thousands of live and on-demand classes, from running to cycling to yoga. Try Peloton risk-free with a 30-day home trial. New members only, not available in remote locations. See additional terms at onepeloton.com/home-trial. Peloton, motivation that moves you.
All right, Vanderbilt's at Kentucky. We won't spend much time talking about this, and nor should we. Remember, Vanderbilt got off to a 3-1 start. People were like, you know what? Well, no, I don't know what. What I know is that Vanderbilt is talent deficient, to say the least. And you look at some of their numbers, too. I mean, it's like, I think Clark Lee's going to do a great job there. My friend Barton Simmons, I think, will do a great job there. They got to get dudes. They don't have them. They competed against South Carolina back-to-back years, and one could say that maybe they should have won those games. Nearly pulled it off at Missouri. But you got to catch your contemporaries before you can start chasing, the upper echelon. But, again, they're competitive in many respects, but I just don't think they've got the juice to stop this Kentucky ground game. And I think that's what they're going to do. Of course, there's been all this hype about Will Levis this year. Numbers pretty pedestrian, to be quite honest with you. Kind of what he's done historically. I think whoever drafts him in the first round, general manager is probably getting fired within 3 years. But I don't think you can afford to take a first-round pick on a guy like him. The numbers and production just aren't there. But they'll win this week. And then Kentucky will move ahead, of course, to be 7-3 with 2 games to play. And then they'll lose to Georgia next week, and they'll beat Louisville. So 8-4. That's how I see it. Maybe you see it differently. But it should be a good game in Oxford. Alabama at Ole Miss. Ole Miss, of course, coming off the open date. Alabama coming off the loss to LSU. How motivated is Alabama going to be to go play this football game? When's the last time that we've been in middle of November and Alabama pretty much eliminated from the playoffs? I mean, they're going to have absolute chaos ensue in order for them to make a playoff, and I just don't see that happening. So how motivated are they going to be? Now, Ole Miss is going to be extremely motivated, as well they should be. Ole Miss got a good football team. And if people talk about the schedule, and that's true, it is. But Ole Miss is a good football team. They're doing what you should do. It's not like they're just squeaking by. They're winning games. They've had a couple scares here and there, but by and large, Ole Miss making the winning plays, like the game against Kentucky. When Kentucky's down there on the doorstep with a chance to win, you had an Ole Miss defensive lineman went inside and forced the fumble. It's not like Levis just dropped the football and Ole Miss jumped on it. It wasn't a gift. It was a play. They made the play. And as much as I don't like those guys, I got to give credit where credit's due. I mean, Lane Kiffin, thought by many to kind of be propped up by Jeff Lebby, has proven this year that, no, it's me. It's me. And you know what? Tip of the cap. I was wrong. The guy's done a great job this year. A lot of talk that he may be in contention for the Auburn job. And, I don't know if that works out or not. I think Ole Miss will do whatever they have to do to keep him. But we'll see. But this is a big game, not just in the SEC West, but, for Ole Miss. And if you're Alabama, if you can't get up to go play this game, that'll be a surprise. I'd like Alabama to win. I do think Ole Miss covers. I do think this is one that probably may even go down to the final possession. But I think Ole Miss will really give Alabama a game. And I think if you're Ole Miss too, you have got to win the first quarter. And they've done a good job of that this year. Lane Kiffin's done a good job kind of scripting out that first quarter. You're going to be doing it against a superior team this week. So we'll see what happens. But you saw what happened at LSU. Ole Miss jumps all over them, and then LSU adjusts and then basically dominated the rest of the ball game. Ole Miss is going to have to make those second half adjustments like they have in some other games, like they did against A&M. That game you look at in hindsight and say, why was that game close? Well, it was on the road. It's tough to win on the road in the SEC, and Alabama's going to see that this weekend too. But I like Alabama to win, Ole Miss to cover. I won't be surprised if Ole Miss wins. I'll be disappointed, but I won't be surprised. Ole Miss is capable of beating Alabama, especially in their own backyard, considering the mental state of both teams. Because I can assure you, as we sit here today, Ole Miss wants Alabama a whole lot more than Alabama wants Ole Miss. Because Ole Miss sees this as an opportunity to elevate their program. I think Alabama, in many respects, kind of sees this as kind of playing out the string. And I've seen some comments about former players from Alabama that have commented these young guys just see Alabama as a football factory. They don't have true love for Alabama. So how much of that is shared with the team? How much of that resonates with the team? It's like, you know what? I do love Alabama. I do love this tradition. So we're going to see what this Alabama team is made of this weekend. South Carolina's at Florida. Kind of a tricky game here. I'm going with Florida, though, because they're at home. And again, Beamer ball, so up and down. They did go win on the road to Kentucky, and then they lose at home to Missouri. So you never know which Gamecock team is going to show up. I think it'll be a good ball game, though. I think Spencer Rattler is a guy that's kind of built for the stage. I know that he is very kind of a swashbuckler at times, kind of loose and fast with the football. I just don't think that South Carolina's got enough dudes on defense to win this game. And again, I think Florida could be one of those teams down the stretch that kind of surge their way up to SEC bowl pecking order. We'll save our thoughts on Georgia and Mississippi State for the final segment. But A&M at Auburn, I told you guys, I cannot wait for this game. We're going to be covering our game. So I'm going to DVR it, and you can say, but Steve, why do you care? I think it's going to be the most entertaining game of the weekend. Because whoever loses this game, their season is over. Because the loser is going to have 7 losses. The winner will keep their thin bowl hopes alive. And, of course, both teams are in the same situation at 3-6. They have to win out. And Auburn, you think about this. With Cadillac up there, Cadillac's not going to get the job, okay? But Cadillac's capable of winning these next 2 and setting up perhaps a very dicey Iron Bowl. I think Auburn wins this weekend. I think the line originally favored A&M and it flipped to Auburn. Auburn's at home. If Auburn plays as hard as they did against us, they're going to win this game. And I suspect they do. And could be Cadillac Williams carried off the field on their shoulders, Then the next week they get Western Kentucky. So all of a sudden you look up and you think, hey, they win these next 2. And what kind of shape is Alabama going to be in going into the Iron Bowl? And granted, it's at home and everybody hates Auburn. Be an intriguing week, rivalry week, if Auburn can manage to pull this off. I think they do win this week, and I think they win next week, and we'll see what happens. But that's your SEC schedule. Let's run down the winners one more time for you. Tennessee, LSU, Kentucky, Alabama, Florida, Georgia, and Auburn. That's how I see it, and we'll get back to the Georgia-Mississippi State thoughts a little bit later in the show. Let's thank our friend Blair Chandler. We did the Bulldog Boneyard free ticket giveaway. And the gentleman that's bringing his family, it's his kid's first time game to ever go to Mississippi State game. So it's kind of cool we made that happen. We also, last night, I've already deleted a tweet because I was getting so many notifications. But I had a fan that reached out to me and said, hey, we're not going to be able to make the East Tennessee State game. I would like to get my 5 tickets in the hands of a veteran. And I thought, man, what a noble cause that proved to be. And sure enough, put it out on Twitter, and a young man reached out to me, and he's a veteran, and his family's only been to one Mississippi State game ever. And it just so happens that they're a family of 5. So it's a love connection. And so we got everybody paired up. And so I appreciate you guys reaching out. I like to put people together. I just don't want tickets to fall into the hands of opposing fans. I don't care who they are. I don't care how nice they are. I don't care how often they pay their taxes. I don't care about any of that stuff. I don't want opposing fans there. I don't. I understand they have to have their little section, but as a guy that used to be a season ticket holder that had to sit around opposing fans every single week, and I was on the 50-yard line, like 25 rows up on the west side, maybe 20. And then there was somebody behind me that bought those tickets, and every single week there was somebody different there. And it was 9 times out of 10, was an opposing fan. So I had to have LSU people sitting behind me, Alabama people sitting behind me, and Ole Miss people sitting behind me. It's just not fair. And people, well, they're my tickets, I can do what I want to. Yeah, that's fine. I see this more as a family. If I've already spent the money to buy the tickets, that money is already spent. It's not going to cost me anything else to eat those tickets or to give them to perhaps a Mississippi State family from my community. Maybe there's some young people that have never been to a game, and I can give their parents tickets. Hey, you guys go to the game on me. Here's the parking pass. Here's the tickets. You buy your own snacks, but you go have a great experience. You've already spent the money. Why not do something good with it, right? But no, we want to go sell them. It's ridiculous, man. And I remember that LSU guy had touched me, man. That's the closest I ever came to hitting somebody at a ball game in my life. He'd been sitting there running his mouth the whole ball game. This is back, I can't remember what year it was. They finally made a play late in the game to kind of get some separation. And he kind of pushes me on my shoulder because he wants something to say. And all I had to say to him is, don't touch me. So if you got tickets and you're trying to get them in the hands of Bulldog fans, I'll help you as best I can through the power of social media, because I don't want other people to have to go through that. I don't want other people to have to say, you know what, hey, I wanted to save a few bucks, so I'm going to make everybody that sits around me deal with some obnoxious fans. I know that not every opposing fan is obnoxious, but why take a chance? I'm not being silly here. I mean it. I think we should do all we can to get as many Mississippi State people into Davis Wade Stadium. There are going to be a lot of Georgia fans here this weekend too. And chances are that if you put your tickets out on StubHub, they're going to end up in the hands of a Georgia Bulldog. And I know when I sat as a season ticket holder and I had my friends around me, we all talked among ourselves, beginning to say, hey, let's trade numbers. If you guys ever aren't making a ball game, let me know. I got friends or family that would love to attend and sit close to us. And we kind of worked together as a unit because we were a group. And I got to go back and see those people the next week, right? And so how am I going to feel if I sell my tickets on StubHub and there's some clown? And I knew if I showed back up there that Miss Pam and her husband were going to look at me all negatively. Well, who were those people that sat in your seats last week? I got a responsibility to that community. I do. Maybe you see it differently, but I feel kind of passionately about that. When you are in a section with people and you share the experience year after year, ball game after ball game, the last thing that I want to do is have some loudmouth opposing fan come in there disrupting the time of the people that are in my section. It's not going to do it. Maybe you feel differently, but I don't. But anyway, let's thank Blair. Blair provided the tickets, and Blair will be happy that you guys will visit his website at closewithblair.com. Blair is a Bulldog, season ticket holder in multiple sports, has a place here in Starkville, lives down there in central Mississippi, makes a trek up here, and was generous enough to give his tickets away as part of the Boneyard ticket giveaway. And so we're happy for him to do that, and very gracious and generous of him to offer those tickets up for free. He could think about that for a second. It's a sellout crowd. Blair could have easily went and put those tickets up on StubHub and probably made some money. But instead, he wanted you to benefit. And so I want you, if you have needs in the mortgage industry, that you repay him. Whether you got the tickets or not, repay him for his generosity to some other Mississippi State fans, because it is a family. It is. It may not be with our employees, but among us, those of us that have been Bulldogs our entire life, we are a family, right? Other people may come and go, but we're a family. And I appreciate Blair recognizing that. Give Blair a text or call today at 601-500-2344. Again, 601-500-2344. Maybe you're looking to refinance your home. Maybe you're looking to buy a home for the first time, and they've recently had a dip in interest rates, which is kind of unexpected, but also a good thing. Blair can walk you through all that. It's a complicated process. There's so much that goes on that you need somebody that's got experience. 21 years of experience, top 1% close ratio, back-to-back years nationally. Not just in Issaquahna County, nationally. Not just in Tippah County, not just in Dumas, right? Blair's the real deal. You need somebody that knows the ins and outs of the mortgage industry to help you navigate through that process. Again, that's closewithblair.com. Call or text him at 601-500-2344 and mention to him you heard about him on the Boneyard. He's going to pay for your appraisal. How about that? All right, top 10 list today, courtesy of our friend Dave Murray. Now, we have not done a lot of guest pickers on this show. Very few. Sometimes with country, I'll let people do it because I want the list. I want people to enjoy the list. And also, too, it's difficult for me to navigate through, listen to a bunch of country, to put a list together that I'll never listen to again. But so Dave, Dave and I have been co-workers now, man, for coming up on 20 years. And, now that I've, acquired the website from Gene, as Gene is retired, I guess I'm Dave's boss, but I don't see it that way. I don't treat him that way. Dave's my friend. And when I was an aspiring journalist, Dave Murray was kind of a hero to me. And so Dave's another guy, too, that loves Southern rock. He likes some of the modern stuff, too. But, Dave and his wife went and saw the Stones here recently. They're not Southern rock, obviously, but, Dave still gets out and goes to shows, even at his advanced age. He'll find that funny. That's a joke between us. I had it didn't work out, but I'd gotten some pictures for I think it was Stark Billings of the old Scott Field, when there was just barely nothing out there, and I had a friend of mine Photoshop a young David Murray, and they're selling popcorn in the stands. It didn't work out, but anyway, it's better to be on this side of the grass than the other, right? No matter your age, and I love these people that say, "Oh, I'm getting old." Well, you know what? That's better than the alternative, right? It's better to have birthdays than not to have them. So, but I love Dave Murray and really appreciate all his contributions to my life. And really as a writer, I've been able to kind of bounce things off him over the years. It's because I admired his skill, and he's always had so much patience with me. And so one of Dave's favorite bands is Steely Dan. And many of you have requested that in the past. And I thought, you know what? I can't do this list justice. And the other day, Dave and I were talking. And he goes, you got to do a Steely Dan list, one of my favorite bands. I said, why don't you do the list? Why don't you do the list? Because I want to make sure that we get it right for you. So this is David Murray's top 10 Steely Dan songs. Now, Peg didn't make the list. That's an honorable mention. I'll even give you a little bit of Dave's notes because Dave can be a little long-winded. He is long of pen, shall we say, when it comes to being a scribe. So I'll give you Dave's notes for those of you that are big Steely Dan fans. Of course, we all know some Steely Dan songs, but many of you probably grew up with some of this. So again, Dave Murray's top 10 Steely Dan songs. Number 10, Pretzel Logic. Pretzel Logic, seriously, son, where did you get those shoes? Number 9, Showbiz Kids. Don't try to figure it out. Just enjoy the infectious bottom lines. Number 8, FM. That was a movie. I have this album. It's a double album. I have the first pressing. I have it, courtesy of my stepdad. A rare poppy number, but the hook still hooks, and part of a great soundtrack for a bad movie. That's right, Dave. Number 7, it's Kid Charlemagne. Signature guitar work and drug-era lyrics is only jazz can mix. That's Dave's aside there on Kid Charlemagne. Number 6, a song that I think everybody's probably heard. The guitar on this is so good, too. It's not like real technical, but the tone they use, it's great. And I think the cadence of this song is so good, too. It's reeling in the years. As Dave says, their lyrical legend began here and still inspires debate. Reeling in the years. Great song. Number 5, Black Cow. The distilled essence of Steely Dan. That's a good comment. Number 4, Deacon Blues. Yeah, all their SEC fans will hate the lyric, but otherwise it's an epic song. Number 3, this is another one that I think most people will recognize. You may not know that Steely Dan performed it, but this is a song too that still gets play on classic rock stations. It's Do It Again. It puts Steely Dan on the charts and on the map, and that's enough. You got to go back, do it again. It's a great song. Number 2, My Old School. And for Dave, that's Taylorsville. Did you know that? Did you know that Dave Murray was a graduate of Taylorsville High School? Dad was a coach. Yeah, true story. My Old School, and Dave says the expanded essence of Steely Dan. So those of you that know the band probably know what's coming next. And this is one of those songs too, like there's parts of it that sound kind of elevator music, and there are parts of it that are a little more ferocious, not like Metallica, but the composition of this song is kind of a wild ride. And I agree with Dave. I think this is the number 1 Steely Dan song. I might have changed my order a little bit because I don't have the same wealth of knowledge that he does. Do It Again and Reeling in the Years would have been in my top 3 if I put this list together. But Ricky, Don't Lose That Number, that's number 1. It is. It's a great song. And as Dave says, all the lyrical, vocal, and instrumental elements are here and all are perfect. Dave, I agree. So we may do more of this from time to time. I tell you what we need. And maybe some of you ladies can hit me up. We have had some requests for Britney Spears. I'm a Britney Spears fan, but not for the reason many of you are. But if you would like to volunteer to be our Britney Spears expert, hit me up on a DMs, and maybe I'll give you some opportunity to get on the show. And so maybe we do some of that because there are some bands out there that they're on our list that I want to be fair to the bands and fair to the fans. I don't want to just wing it. You know what I'm saying? There's sometimes, like early on when we first started doing these lists, and we're over 300 of them now, there would be a band I wasn't quite as familiar with, and so I would listen to that band for 2 days in a row. And sometimes I found some things I really liked, and other times I thought, why am I torturing myself this way? But I think sometimes, too, it's better for us when we have these bands that maybe keep popping up in our mentions, that maybe we go to an expert. So maybe we change the top 10 a little bit. So again, this is Dave Murray's Top 10 Steely Dan song. Dave, thanks so much for your contribution to the show. And again, maybe we've stumbled upon a new feature here. So again, if you have ideas for the top 10 list, or perhaps you'd like to be an expert on a band we haven't done, and you can find all the bands we've done on Spotify by subscribing to Roy's channel at Dogmatic67. I have a lot of people that say, you know what, Steve, I'd love to do my own Motley list. Well, we've done Motley so many times here, So it's got to be something new. And so what I may do on Monday show is I'll get with Roy, and maybe I give you out some of these names of bands we haven't done. And I say, hey, we're looking for this. So if I can find a good Britney Spears expert, we'll do that one day next week. So there you go. So hit us up, let us know. You can follow Roy on Twitter at Dogmatic67. Appreciate your contributions and support of the top 10 list. It's an idea I stole from David Letterman, right? Dave had the top 10 list. We have a top 10 list. So it's kind of in homage to David Letterman. I love the David Letterman show. Preferred it much more over the Tonight Show. Absolutely did. All right, next segment of the show brought to you by Campus Bookmart. Campus Bookmart, a Starkvillian institution, been doing a great job for a great fan base for an awfully long time. And doing it better than ever. The Bully Shop completely renovated, now upstairs on the first floor. No longer in the textbook business, it's allowed them to expand their selection of Mississippi State merchandise. The greatest selection in the known universe. So if you're a Mississippi State fan, you're not shopping at Campus Bookmart, you're doing it wrong. If you can't make it to town to see their smiling faces, visit them on the World Wide Web at campusbookmart.net. And by being a loyal Boneyard listener, we'll give you a phrase that pays. That is BSR, which stands for Beautiful Steve Robertson. That gets you free shipping on all orders over $75. Any order less than $75, absolutely incomplete. All right, Mississippi State men's basketball back in action tonight. playing the Akron Zips as part of the Barstool event up there. Our friend Brandon Walker, part of that. I enjoyed the little exchange between he and Chris Jans. Chris Jans, obviously, very personable, very funny guy. I've been around Chris a couple times, and I tell you, I enjoy Chris Jans. I think we've made two really good hires. And, of course, we didn't spend a lot of time talking about this, but on Monday, Mississippi State gets off to a great start to the Chris Jans era, a 63-44 win over Texas A&M Corpus Christi, who was picked to win their league. And so it's not like, okay, this is just, Mississippi School of Math and Science. It's a good start against a good team. Not going to sit here and tell you they're a great team, because I don't believe that. But the reality of it is State took care of business. And it was quite the game at the half. For those of you that didn't watch it, I was worried. We're down 5 at the break and then absolutely dominate the second half, 38-14. Pretty impressive showing for the Bulldogs. Tolu Smith leads the Bulldogs with 19 points on the night. Shaquille Moore pitched in 11 off the bench. Cam Matthews begins the Chris Jans era with a block shot. That's the way it opens. But a lot of new players on this team, a new-look Bulldog team. Excited to watch them. I think one of the guys that I thought really gave us some juice, he didn't score, but I thought he did some things on the defensive end and helped facilitate some, was Tyler Stevenson, a transfer from Southern Miss. But again, great win and pretty good crowd too, 6,254 fans there to watch Chris Jans and his group kind of get going again. So congratulations to Coach Jans and them. They will face Akron tonight in Philadelphia, PA. If you're up in that neck of the woods, maybe go check them out. We got some Bulldogs up there in the Northeast that maybe perhaps go out there and get the maroon and white cheer going. So that's kind of where they are with that. But again, should be a game that State gets an opportunity to win and get off to a 2-0 start. So that would be great. I've told you guys before, when we hired Chris Jans, it just seemed to be the right fit for us. You saw how gritty they were at New Mexico State. Pretty tremendous run last year. Really got things done. And that's the thing, too, when we think about Mississippi State sports, and I think you'll agree with me. I've said this to you guys before. Listen, we understand losing is part of competition. Lack of effort is not. And so Chris Jans and this group of individuals have really brought some effort. Again, we're just one game in, but early returns are very good. Now, Akron is 1-0 this year. They beat South Dakota State at home, 81-80 in overtime. So an exciting win for them earlier this week. Now, they'll see a different brand of athlete this week. I mean, obviously, we recruited a little bit better than South Dakota State does. But eager to see the Bulldogs play again. Many of you will be able to watch that tonight. It will be on Barstool TV, too. So if you're unfamiliar with that, I would suggest you already begin to kind of figure that out. If you want to watch the ball game, don't wait until 10 minutes before the ball game and start tweeting out or putting on Facebook what channel's the game on. Kind of take it upon yourself to go ahead and do a little research here. But kind of looking at Akron real quick here. We're not going to spend a lot of time on all this. But Xavier Castaneda, 31 points for them. Played 42 minutes of this ball game. Obviously a bit of an Energizer bunny. A 6'1", 188-pound senior guard from Chicago, Illinois. Transfer from South Florida. So a guy that's got it done. So they'll have some dudes. We're going to have to play. Simple as that. They had 3 guys in double figures. Enrique Freeman, Trendon Hankerson. Hankerson also went 42 minutes. They got a lot of minutes out of their starters. Did not get very deep into the bench. Maybe that's perhaps something that Chris Jans can exploit in this ball game. But again, we do expect State to be 2-0 after Friday. And then, of course, they're back in Humphrey Coliseum on Sunday. So if you are staying for the ball game and spending the night, Saturday night, after the Georgia game, State will host Arkansas Pine Bluff at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It's not going to hurt you to stay a little bit longer, right? Many of you were going to hang around anyway and go to lunch and kind of enjoy your weekend in Starkville. I encourage you, take your kids out to Kids Day this Sunday at Humphrey Coliseum. That game will be broadcast on the SEC Network Plus, so you can use your app to follow that game. And then the Bulldogs head to the Fort Myers Tip-Off Classic next week. So, again, 2 games this weekend, Friday in Philadelphia, PA, and then Sunday, 2 p.m. in Starkville. We also got the Sam Purcell era off on a good start. And listen, the quality of competition wasn't great. Okay, I'm not going to talk negatively about Mississippi Valley State. But the thing that I would say here, for those of you that watch this game, I'm sure you felt like I did. Man, these ladies are fun to watch. And that's the thing, too. We have kind of become so accustomed to that, right? It's like, and I don't know what it is about the ladies' game. Maybe it's because of the fact that we really didn't have much of a tradition before Coach Fannin and Fannin Otis now. And then Vic Schaefer takes us to the next level. But we were the worst program in the SEC for many, many years. And it kind of goes back to this whole thing about commitment to athletics. You know, women's sports in many respects was kind of an afterthought here. That's just the reality of life. That's not a criticism of anybody, but that's just reality. But we have had a lot of fun the last decade cheering for women's basketball. And I think what we saw against Mississippi Valley State is more reminiscent of what we expect to be. You know, when Vic was here, that's what we did. We got up and down the floor, we pressured, we competed, we shared the basketball. And when you look at this box score, it's absolutely ridiculous. State wins the opening quarter 28-8, and then 27-10. So it's a 55-18 game at the break. And then just when you think, okay, well, they're going to slow down, no, they had their biggest quarter yet, 32-17 there in the third quarter. The game is over at that point. And even with the reserves in the ball game, State wins the fourth period at 17-12. Final score of 104-47. I think if you're Sam too, and I did think they got deep into the bench. State did, so it wasn't like Sam was just, trying to embarrass Mississippi Valley State. But State with 6 players in double figures. Let that sink in for a second. You talk about balance and scoring. Jerkelia Jordan, we know what she can do. 18 points for her. Jessica Carter, so good to have her back. And there was some concern she might not be back until January. Sam Purcell, very emotional in the postgame, talking about Jessica Carter. And that resonates well with our fan base. A guy that really cares. It's not just a job to him. He cares about these young ladies, their lives, their education. Alana Smith, 15 points for her. Debricia Poe in the starting lineup. Right? How about that? Ravi Falk shared that with us too. He expected that to happen. That's exactly what happened. 10 points for her. Anastasia Hayes, you know what you got there? Just 3 points from her. Are you worried about that? Absolutely not. Absolutely not, because you know what she's capable of. Ajane Johnson, 16 points, and then Courtney Weber with 10. But Bulldogs had several players make contributions. Danae Carter was somebody that we had to depend on a lot. 8 points for her last year, and then Ramani Parker with 8. And again, you get down, Alasia Hayes gets in the game, Charlotte Cole, and we had a good group, to say the least. And so a good opening night for the Sam Purcell era, pretty incredible when you think about it. The ladies shot 66% from the floor and 43.5% from the three. And we shot 23. It's not like we just kind of got the benefit of hitting a couple shots and then went away from it. And then nearly 71% from the free throw line. Those numbers right there, those percentages will win you a lot of basketball games. And again, I just think we made the right decision with Purcell. I feel great about Jans. I feel great about Purcell. I think we have the right person, not just the right coach, but the right person for Mississippi State. I think he fits here. I think he knows that we're committed to winning here, and we have won big here. He's seen that up close and personal as an assistant coach at Louisville. We got the right guy. There's no question about it. And I know a lot of people, of course, were disappointed that we didn't give Doug Novak the job. We wish Doug the best. But the right decision was made in my estimation. And again, that's not a criticism of Doug. I just think we needed to get somebody very familiar with the women's game that understood women's recruiting. He is recruiting at a high level. And you go out and you throw up a 100-piece your first game out. So the ladies are in action tonight at 5:30 p.m. against North Alabama. So if you're in town, you got a chance to see a lot of Mississippi State sporting events this weekend. Of course, soccer plays at 3. And when that game is over, you can mosey on over to the Hump, watch the ladies play basketball, watch the ball game with Georgia Saturday, and then hang around on Sunday. It's almost like Super Bulldog weekend light You got a chance to come check it out. I encourage you to come do that. If you're in town, Mississippi State has your entertainment calendar kind of set for you. North Alabama is a 1-0 team. They knocked down Christian Brothers, which is kind of a misnomer considering it's a women's team, but they beat Christian Brothers 78-68 earlier this week in Florence, Alabama. And we have a lot of Bulldogs that went to UNA as well, but leading scorer for them was Skylar Gill with 16 points. No, that's incorrect. A second high score. Jade Moore, off the bench, had 19 points. She played 36 minutes. So, again, the difference in the strength and conditioning programs, I think, will be evident in this ball game. But, again, a great start. And, to be honest with you, I expect more from the ladies this year when it comes to postseason than I do the men. And that's not a shot at Chris Jans. I just think this roster on the women's side is probably a little more cohesive. You got more returning pieces back. You're not having to piece this thing together, so there's some chemistry there. And, yes, you do have some new pieces, but I think the core of the team has returned. And this is a team last year that was in the mix to make the tournament, just simply ran out of gas late. And so now you have some depth. And now you have a bench. Last year, Time State played with 6 or 7 players. It's ridiculous considering all the injuries that we had. And, again, that's a testament to Doug Novak and that entire staff for kind of keeping things together in light of some very difficult circumstances. So, again, we're very appreciative of Doug Novak, but we look forward to the Sam Purcell era, which is off to a great start. So get out and go support your Bulldogs whenever you can. All right, final segment of the show brought to you by your friends at Portico. Brooks Bryan is my friend, your friend, a friend of Mississippi State, a friend of Starkville. Brooks is a good dude, man. He is. He's a good dude. I wouldn't partner with people that I didn't trust and respect. I have a tremendous amount of respect for Brooks Bryan, part of a great group of individuals bringing this wonderful residential development called Portico to Starkville. Very easy to get to. Turn off 82 on the 12, take the very first right on Pat Station Road, go through the four-way stop, Boomer's Portico. Give yourself a self-guided tour in between your Mississippi State sporting events this weekend. And maybe consider it as maybe it's time to make Starkville home. And maybe it's not your current home. Maybe it's not your primary residence. Maybe you go ahead and get a second home and you begin to think about, hey, at some point we're going to retire here. We'd like to be close to campus, just 1.1 miles away from the Mississippi State campus. You can start with a 2-bedroom, 2-bath home and go all the way up to a 4-bedroom, 4-bath home. You can even get a custom build. It's not some cookie-cutter neighborhood, right? There is some continuity within it, but let's say you need some things that maybe perhaps aren't in the typical house plan. They can help you with that. The builders are very flexible when it comes to that. If you've got those questions, reach out to Brooks at 601-416-8075. Again, 601-416-8075. You'll be glad you did. If I was moving to Starkville now, I would move to Portico. I would love to be that close to campus. But now I've got this big house out here that's going to be empty on me here pretty soon, and I've got all this stuff. And so not ready to have the Boneyard garage sale or anything like that. But maybe perhaps you would consider it's time to make Starkville your home, and Portico is absolutely the way to go. Make Portico your next move. Okay, a couple things I want to talk about in our final segment today. Mississippi State has a chance to make Mississippi State athletics history this semester. There are 3 winter sports. There's football, as you know, there is soccer, and there is volleyball. Mississippi State could reach the NCAA postseason in all 3 sports for the first time in school history. We talk about the health of the department, right? And that's the thing. Again, I said this earlier in the show, and some people may take offense, and that's fine. Historically, we have not done a great job in women's sports. We just hadn't. I don't know if it's a matter of allocating the resources or identifying the right coaches. I don't know. But that has changed really in the last 10, 15, 20 years. You look at what happened with softball this past year. Last year, Julie Darty, I think, if memory serves me correct, I did a little research on this earlier. I think we've had 10 winning seasons in our school's history in volleyball. Last year, of course, the most historic season, and we made the NCAA tournament for the first time. Now, we still got a few more matches to go, but we could have back-to-back trips to the NCAA tournament for volleyball. And again, we've hired the right person, clearly. And again, we don't have a ton of tradition to speak of when it comes to volleyball. And so, it's a tough sell at times to tell somebody, hey, you come here and we're going to win we've never won before, but you're going to win. The volleyball Dogs are 13-10 and 6-7 in the conference. They've won 2 matches in a row. And we've got to finish, but we are on pace to make the tournament. In the event that happens, we will have all 3 winter sports in the postseason for the first time in school history. So this evening, we're going to play Kentucky, and that's also in Starkville. Again, I told you it's Super Bulldog Weekend Light. There's plenty of things that you can come root for this weekend while you're in Starkville. It's crazy how it works out. Next Saturday, we're going to be at Tennessee, and then we'll play them again on Sunday, and then we have Missouri the following weekend. So we've got a little bit left to kind of finish up here. But the Bulldogs in position to make the postseason in the NCAA volleyball tournament for just the second time in school history and in back-to-back years. Now, soccer plays today. We celebrated our first ever SEC tournament win here just a couple weekends ago. Never happened before. And now here we are in the NCAA tournament hosting an NCAA tournament game. The last time we went to the tournament was 2018. We were upset. We're hosting again today. If we win, it'll be our first ever win in an NCAA tournament game in soccer. Maybe you didn't know that. And I say that because I think it's important to understand, it's like sometimes we get so caught up in our favorite sport, we don't think about the complete health of our athletics department. But here we are, again, a chance to do something historic. And again, soccer 11-5-4 on the year. Volleyball and soccer both started undefeated for a long time. We're 4-4-2 in the conference. We did lose our last match on the pitch, but have played pretty well. We lost Alabama, of course, one of the better teams in the country, 2-0 in the SEC tournament. So New Mexico State will be your opponent today. That's 3 o'clock Central Time. If you're in town, again, there's so much to think about. Soccer, women's basketball, volleyball, and all of those games are important. Every single one of those games that we play today on the women's side are going to be important games. Every game has some level of importance, but when you begin to think about the postseason implications and the fact that Sam Purcell and the group need to get off to a good start, we're establishing a new era here. You can understand how important it is for us. We need to go 3-0 today. Now, New Mexico State, far, far, far from just some also-ran program. They're 13-4-3 on the year. 7-2-2 in our conference. They enter today's match with a 6-game winning streak. Like everybody else, it's been a little more difficult on the road, but they're 500, 4-4-1 on the road. So every loss they've taken has been in an opponent's home venue. They've won a couple neutral site games, but look at the schedule. It's not like they have just kind of played just anybody. They play at Oregon, at Cal State Fullerton. They play at Texas A&M. Texas A&M, one of the better teams in the Southeastern Conference. They lose that match 2-1. UTEP, Portland State, Nevada, Utah Valley, Seattle U. This is league play, obviously. Texas, Rio Grande, Stephen F. Austin, Tarleton State, Abilene Christian, Southern Utah, Utah Tech, Sam Houston, Grand Canyon, California Baptist. And then they get into their tournament, the WAC tournament, and they win both games against California Baptist and Seattle U. And, of course, they were the regular season championship. I think that's right. Let me look at this to make sure I'm not misleading you here. And actually, I was misleading you there. It's actually Utah Valley that was the 1 seed in the WAC championship tournament. And New Mexico State wins it 1-0. And so, again, this is a team that's used to winning. So it won't be a rollover type thing. They're certainly capable of winning this game. But I began to think about, the history that has been made this year for Mississippi State women's soccer, and then you have a chance to make some more. And how cool would it be for us to be able to celebrate an NCAA tournament win, something we've never done before? It's absolutely incredible to think about that. And so I think that's one of the things you begin to think about if you're a new athletic director. We talk about not having an emergent hire, which is kind of the reality too. We don't have a pressing hire. We're not going to make a coaching change here and there. And then you see some of our non-revenue sports doing some historic things. Now, in the event we win, we are the 7 seed. So we're expected to win today, but there's no guarantee. We were expected to beat Lipscomb, and we didn't back in the playoff in 2018. If we win today, then we would play the winner of Memphis and number 2 seed St. Louis. If we win and somehow Memphis upsets St. Louis, then we would host round 2. I don't expect that to happen. But nevertheless, your Bulldogs competing in the NCAA tournament. And so I share that because I think it's important. Sometimes we get a little bit tunnel vision. We begin to think, hey, well, football's doing this, football's doing that, and we forget about the fact that we have some other student athletes that are giving all they have for the advancement and the representation of Mississippi State. And I think, again, it kind of shows, too, what a good job we have done, finding the right individuals to champion these programs, that we are on the cusp of doing something we have never done before. So I think when a new athletic director comes in, he can see, you know what? Good shape. Yeah, we need to win a few more games in football, obviously, right? I mean, that's the marquee of the winter sports. It's a big part of your recruiting base, too, not just for athletes, but for students. People want to be involved, with winning programs. I think Dr. Mark Keenum understands that. But when you begin to think about the entire student-athlete experience, and they're going to have friends and classmates and, sorority and fraternity members and brothers and sisters. They're going to be competing on other fields of play. And all of a sudden, when you have a chance that on any given day you can go root for Mississippi State to compete in an important game, I think that's an important part of the student experience here at Mississippi State. And so I share that with you because I want to make sure that you understand that it's not just another game. This soccer match is a chance for us to do something we've never done before. And if Julie Darty-Dennis's volleyball team finishes on a high note, we got a chance to do something as an athletic department that we've never done. It's pretty incredible. And you would think all these years of history, say, well, Steve, how many years? Guys, we have played volleyball 47 years, 47 seasons, and went to the NCAA tournament once. Talked a little bit earlier about, commitment, right? Commitment to athletics. 47 seasons. And we finally break through last year. And one of the things that I was told when Julie Darty at the time, when she was hired, it's like, hey, it's your program. Go run your program. Implement your system, and then let us know what you need, and we'll do our best to get the facility upgrades around you. We've done that. And now we're being rewarded kind of quietly in many respects because, not a lot of our fans turn out, but we've set attendance records at Newell Grissom. We've set attendance records for soccer. And so I think those are important factors to celebrate, too. It's not, Steve, not many people go. Well, they do. They go in record numbers. Maybe you don't go. But it's not like our ladies are sitting out there playing like a recreational game and it's just them and their parents. And I love our soccer fans. I'll be honest with you, and it's to my detriment. I have not been to a volleyball match, and I'm going to change that. I am. But when we go out for soccer, the students that turn out are tremendous. Like they'll paint their chest and their faces and they're running around. It's the support that they offer these student athletes is remarkable. And so if you're one of those kids, I love you. I do. And bring some friends because we'll get a chance to win a tournament game today. All right, let's talk a little bit about injuries as we get ready for the Georgia game. Now, I don't expect us to win. I don't. And as I mentioned opening the show, by the time kickoff starts, I'll start thinking, maybe. I'm an optimistic person by nature. I wasn't always that way. Kind of had to learn a new way to live. But, Georgia's a great team. They really are. And let's talk a little bit about maybe Mississippi State's health. Now, Emmanuel Forbes, we talked about that last week. We knew he was out against Auburn and that he may return this week. There were some people, on our message board that were kind of suggesting, he'll be back next week. The information that I had last weekend is that it was just kind of going to be touch and go. How he responded to treatment, what his pain level, threshold looked like, and things like that. And so heading into tomorrow, it's probably a game-time decision. And we need him. We do. But we're going to need him against Ole Miss too. And so you don't want to put him out there to his own detriment, and perhaps this lingers a little bit farther along. So Emmanuel Forbes, questionable for tomorrow. Now, Jaden Crumity, back. Had a good game last week. I understand that he didn't have any, nothing more than a routine soreness this week. He'll be good to go. Dylan Johnson was not 100% last week. They were careful with him. We think he's a little bit closer this week. He's not all the way back, but he's back. He's working through it. So we're in good shape. Now, there were some players last week that missed due to some illness. I've asked a little bit about that. It's difficult to get any information on that. Mike Leach, and I'm very tight-lipped about that. But I understand that we'll be really close to full strength. Maybe one or two guys that maybe have some lingering effects that limited them in practice a little bit this week. And so we'll see. But by and large, your Bulldogs are expected to be full strength when we take the field against the University of Georgia. Now, I'm not going to sit here and pour mouth our team, because how many times have we had these moments before where we think all is lost and then all is not lost? I do expect us to go out there and compete, and I actually picked us to cover in the game. I've got Georgia winning. I do think State covers, and I think the last spread I saw was like 16 and a half. So it's essentially a 3-score game if you get to 16 and a half. I think State will do enough to stay in the ball game. I do expect State to run the football more. I do, or at least attempt to. And I do think that you're probably going to see some wrinkles worked up just for Georgia. But this Georgia team, again, they had a really good game last week, pressuring the quarterback. They have struggled to get the quarterback on the ground. And Will Rogers is not Hendon Hooker. And sometimes Hooker runs himself into some pressure too. But he is a very mobile quarterback, one of the best quarterbacks in the country, as is Will Rogers. Their skill sets are just completely different in many respects. But, Will can't hang on to the football this weekend. He can't sit back there and just wait. We got to take what they give us and get it out. I do expect to see Georgia mimic some of what Alabama and Auburn did, even though State was able to put up with 39 points last weekend. Auburn did a great job taking the check down game away from us, because we have thrown to the running backs, maybe not with the same frequency we did last year or the year before, but that's a big part of our game. When the first two reads aren't there, you check it down. And there's some times, too, our ball placement hadn't been the best on those throws, but they did a great job kind of getting out there. They have some very athletic ends that are able to get out there and assist in pass coverage, and maybe that's part of the assignment is maybe we're not going to rush, maybe we're going to show pressure and just kind of get out there and float a little bit. And then the next thing you know, we check it down. You've got a very athletic guy kind of getting downhill and making a play. And they hit our running backs. Give Auburn some credit. And I think it showed a lot for Woody Marks, guy coming off a broken nose against Alabama, to get out there and play the way he did. We got some warriors at running back. We really do. We have some absolute warriors at running back. Can we get some more talented guys? Yeah, at some point, yeah. It's a different brand of running back in this scheme. But we got some dudes, man. We got some guys that will get out there and compete and play hard. I love our backfield. I really do. Simeon Price is a guy, too, that I think can be a guy, too. I think as you kind of move forward with this process, you begin to think about, what's this depth chart going to look like next year? And you may have to make some alterations to your recruiting plan, should some guys like to go pro. I don't think at this point they will. Dylan Johnson may be the most likely to go pro. I think that's likely a mistake. But, Dylan's got to do what's best for him. And I won't be critical of him for doing so. But I think the fact that he's been a little bit banged up this year, maybe he's got a little bit more to prove. But Dylan Johnson, obviously a guy that runs with some real grit and toughness and sometimes runs angry. I don't know that we've ever had anybody run quite as angry as Colin Hill. But Dylan has some of that in him at times too. Like when there's going to be contact, he will lower his shoulder and try to plow through somebody. And sometimes it works out and other times it doesn't. But it's still a very punishing run. This Georgia linebacking group is going to be, elite. It's not a big surprise. I'm not breaking any news here today when I tell you Georgia's a great team. They are. I do think Mississippi State will go out and compete. We had a thread somebody mentioned on the Gene's page at Icon message boards. Will we just go over there and roll over and play dead? And I don't believe we will. I think Mike Leach kind of called his team out a little bit after Alabama for being scared of Alabama, and that hurt the sensibilities of some of the pearl clutchers within our fan base. I don't know why he does that. Guys, here's the deal. This is the Southeastern Conference. This isn't the Shriners, Youth Soccer League, where everybody needs to be coddled and everybody needs to be given a Capri Sun and everybody's mom takes turns bringing snacks. This is not that. It's not. This is Southeastern Conference. Now, Mike Leach sometimes talks to his team through the media, But I can tell you this, our kids love playing, and I hate to call them kids. Our young men love playing for Mike Leach. I'm sure there's a rare exception out there. But when I speak to these guys off the record, I bump into somebody in town, they love our staff, they love our head coach. And so you would think sometimes reading social media commentary that there's this big rift. Guys, we are 6-3. You say, but Steve, we're 6-3. Yeah, we're 6-3. We're 6-3 with 3 games remaining. I mean, how many times? Recently, and you go back and think about it, how quickly we got bowl eligible. We're not a team that nobody expected us to contend in the West this year, right? We wanted to take a step forward. I believe we have, but we've got to finish. It's so many people at the beginning of the year said, well, we'll probably be 6-6, 7-5. Okay, we're 6-3 with 3 to play. We could absolutely end up 7-5. We could also absolutely end up 8-4. I don't think we end up 9-3. If you beat Georgia, then maybe you do. I just don't expect us to beat Georgia. I feel confident we'll beat East Tennessee State, and I see the Egg Bowl as a toss-up, and perhaps it's a game we can go win. And again, when you begin to think about the dynamics of the next 3 weeks, the fact that we get a chance to play a very good Georgia team, right? And then play East Tennessee State at 11 a.m. and then have the short week and get ready to play Ole Miss, where Ole Miss playing a very emotional game this week against Alabama. It's true. And then the next week you got to go on the road and probably play an Arkansas team that's playing for bowl eligibility. So there's going to be a gauntlet. I would much rather have our schedule than their schedule. We both get an elite team at home today or this weekend. But next weekend, State obviously has the better draw. And the fact that State's playing an FCS team at home in the morning. Ole Miss is playing an SEC West team that, very easily could have beat them last year. In a place that they have not played well historically. And then they've got to get on a plane and come home and start preparing for a short week. And so, those things favor Mississippi State. At some point, you got to go play a football game. Sometimes when one team's better than the other, it doesn't matter how much time you got to prepare. Sometimes better is just better. But I do think, I think we've got our hands full this weekend. But I do think State will find a way to cover the spread. And I won't be the least bit surprised if this game goes to the fourth quarter. Similar to 2020. Nothing will really surprise me about this game. I don't think State will get blown out. I think Zach Arnett's group will be ready to roll. But I go back to, when you think about it as a competitor, forget about rankings, forget about all this other stuff. But as a competitor, you can't ever count yourself out. If you're a true competitor, you can't just ever say, we're going to lose. Now, the fans can say it. The news media can say it. But as a player and as a competitor, you can't ever in your heart believe, we can't beat these guys. Even if it's the longest shot in the history of the world. There's always the one. You got to go out there thinking to yourself, hey, we can beat these guys. And I think the benefit of 2020, and the coaches kind of downplayed all that this week, and I think some of that is probably coach speak too. But the reality of it is the nucleus of this team went to Athens, Georgia 2 years ago and should have won the football game. They should know there's no monster in the closet. That's not in any way disrespectful to Georgia. But it's just another guy across from you. Herschel Walker is not coming out of that tunnel. There's some great players that are. But once you get out there and get in the flow of the game and you start doing your job and doing your assignment, you begin to realize, hey, we're all dudes. And we're playing at our place. And we got about 50,000 cowbells ringing us along. I would love to hear Georgia fans complaining about cowbells come Monday. Absolutely love it. But again, I do expect State to lose the ball game. And I hate to say it that way, but that's just the reality of life. I think most of you feel the same way. We got Georgia. But, man, what a tremendous opportunity we have to not only change the direction of our season, but potentially change the course of the college football season. You beat Georgia, Georgia's still going to get in, I would suspect. Georgia may lose. Let's say we beat them, and let's say they lose in the SEC championship game. They may not make the playoff. If they go undefeated and lose a championship game, they're in the playoff. Would you not agree? But also, too, let's say you upset them and they go on to win the SEC, then somebody else that's projected to get into the playoffs may not make the playoffs. So there's a lot at stake here. You can make an impact on a national level this weekend. You can change a lot. You can change the course of somebody else's season and many school season besides your own, not to mention your own place in the SEC Bowl pecking order. You simply never know. If you haven't done so, go to dogpilethebook.com and you can order all my sports books there. You can get them signed, you get them personalized, whatever you'd like. Go to dogpilethebook.com. I will be at Maroon & Company from 2 to 5 today, and then I will immediately leave there and head downtown to the Unwind event at Book Martin Cafe. And then on Saturday, if you're looking for me, looking for books, I'm easy to find. I will be at the Lodge for the first time this season. And let me give you time on that too. Got it right here. So that'll be 1:30 to 4 on Saturday. 1:30 to 4 at the Lodge. So Maroon & Company today, 2 to 5. Unwind event tonight. That's 5:30 to 8:30. And then tomorrow, 1:30 to 4 before I go and cover the ball game. And then if you're a member of the 120 Club in Jackson, I'll be with you on Tuesday. And then Thursday, November 17th, I'll be at the Starville Touchdown Club, which means I can't make the Judas Priest and Queensrÿche show at the Lander Center with Roy, which I'm a little bummed about, but we got to pay the bills. I can't be run the rock and roll road all the time. But anyway, that's where we are with that. If you're looking for Blooms of Oleander, you can get it at great bookstores everywhere, and also BarnesandNoble.com, BooksAMillion.com, everywhere else. And that was a book we didn't ever put out really to make any money. It was just about art and expressing ourselves, and we sold thousands of copies, which absolutely amazes me. And so thank you guys so much for that. But again, we'll be out and about a lot. And of course, we'll have a December schedule coming up pretty soon. We look forward to seeing you guys at events. Come by and say hello. Come talk some football with me. I'm always around, always eager to talk about Mississippi State athletics. And again, good luck to all of our teams in action today and this weekend. So much going on today for a Mississippi State fan. I mean, you probably need 2 or 3 TVs and maybe the Twitter feed and everything else because, again, soccer, volleyball, women's basketball, men's basketball. Today. It's a big day. You talk about Maroon Friday. It's Maroon Friday, to say the least. And let's hope for a 4-0 day today. And how about a 1-0 day tomorrow? Wouldn't that be amazing? We look forward to being back with you guys on Sunday. Be careful on your way to Starkville. And remember, it's going to be cold this weekend. I don't know where you live or where you're from and what apps you have on your phone. It is going to be cold at Davis Wade Stadium on Saturday. So be mindful of that. And, of course, our local vendors would love for you to show up, without a jacket and buy a fresh one here. And maybe that's an option for you. But you need to be prepared to be bundled up on Saturday night. Again, it's going to be a great crowd, be a great atmosphere. But you need to make sure you protect yourself and understand it is going to be brisk, shall they say, come Saturday night at Davis Wade Stadium. Well, that's it for today. Thank you guys so much, as always, for your support and your patronage of the Boneyard and JeansPage.com. We love what we do over there, and would love for you to come be a member with us. And we may not always agree, but we always respect the fact that we all want the same things, and that's for Mississippi State to win. Until next time, let's all live our lives in a way we make more friends than enemies, and people can see a difference in the way we live.
Peloton, let's go.
This holiday, with the right music and the right motivation from world-class instructors,
We're going to pick it up a notch. It's the holiday season.
you might just surprise yourself with what you're capable of. Work out to thousands of live and on-demand classes, from running to cycling to yoga. Try Peloton risk-free with a 30-day home trial. New members only, not available in remote locations. See additional terms at onepeloton.com/home-trial. Peloton, motivation that moves you.